Question. P.S. If n is an integer, which of the following must be an odd integer? Solution. Even integers. Even integers are integers that are divisible by 2, including both positive and negative integers. 0 is also an even integer. Thus, even integers include and so on -2 times n, and so on -4, -2, 0, 2, 4, and so on 2 times n, and so on, where n is an integer. Odd integers. Odd integers are integers that are not divisible by 2, including both positive and negative integers. Thus, odd integers include and so on -2 times n plus 1, and so on until we get -3, -1, 1, 3, and so on until we get 2 times n minus 1, and so on, where n is an integer. We are required to select the option that must be an odd number if n is an integer. A. 2 times n minus n. Now, 2 times n minus n equals n, so it could be either odd or even depending on the value of n. Thus, this option is not always odd. B. 2 times n plus n. Now, 2 times n plus n equals 3 times n. It could be either odd or even depending on the value of n. Thus, this option is not always odd. C. 3 plus n. Again, 3 plus n could be odd if n is even, or it could be even if n is odd. Thus, this option is not always odd. D. -n plus 1 minus whole of 1 minus 3 times n. -n plus 1 minus whole of 1 minus 3 times n equals -n plus 1 minus 1 plus 3 times n equals 2 times n. Now, 2 times n will always be even, as the product 2 times n contains the number 2. Thus, this option is never odd. E. n plus 1 minus 3 times n. n plus 1 minus 3 times n equals 1 minus 2 times n. Now, 2 times n will always be even, so 1 minus 2 times n will be odd. Thus, this option is always odd. Thus, E is always odd, and thus, E is the correct answer. Remember that an even integer can be described as 2 times n, and an odd integer can be described as 2 times n minus 1, 2 times n plus 1, or 1 minus 2 times n. Answer: E.